Welcome. This is episode 128. From fossil fuels to electric cars, the world is in a transition phase. There have been huge investments in battery technology, while internal combustion engines mount a rearguard action to stay relevant. Our guest today comes with decades of experience in the automobile industry. Dr. Tony Augustine has worked in the sales, finance, servicing, and planning departments of Tata Motors and Toyota, one homegrown and the other a global leader. What's interesting is how Dr. Augustine looks at how the battery market for EVs will evolve. While running costs are low, replacement costs are high, and the technology is advancing all the time. Dr. Augustine speaks of his years in the automotive industry, what the new opportunities are, and what young people can look forward to, as well as the challenges they will face. My name is Venugopal Nair. I head Ideascape Communications, which is to branding, creative, and design. And every week, we speak to people about their career journeys, which are full of twists, turns, and insights. And I'm sure Dr. Augustine will enlighten us on a sector which is going to be very important in the future because automobiles are in a state of primal transition. Dr. Tony Augustine, welcome to the show.
Oh, good afternoon, and thank you, thank you, Mr. Gopal Nair, for inviting me to be a part of this lecture, broadcast, or whatever you call it. Thank you very much.
Okay, you told me that this is one of your first experiences doing this, so I'm
Yes,
sure this is something
this is
we
my
both
first.
will look forward to.
Yes, definitely. This is
Okay.
my first. Hopefully, not the last. Let's see how things go from here.
Definitely won't be the last. So, automobile engineering, did you even think when you got into engineering or when you started that automobiles were going to be one of your focus areas? Or is it the way life took you?
A bit of both, I should say. I went to study mechanical engineering, production engineering, etc. And any young man in the late 1990s of last century, automobile has always been a is a passion for any young engineer. So I was indifferent. So when I got a chance to work in automobile industry, car industry, truck industry, I fell for it. So that is how I came to the industry. And ever since I have come here, I found that, this is what makes people move, both personally and professionally. So it's a growing industry. India is still in the early stages of its motorization. Though we have moved a lot, we have a lot more to move. So it's a good industry to be in. It has its challenges, opportunities. So like many other industries, opportunities are plenty here.
Yeah, that's true. Do you remember your first interview at Tata Motors or when you got into Tata Motors? What happened?
Yes. Yeah, I joined after my engineering. I had a small stint with Hindustan Motors. I was assembling heavy equipments in Chennai. And then I went for my MBA, and then they called for an interview. There was a campus opportunity. So we had the first round in the campus. Then I had to come to Bangalore to Tata Motors. That time it was called Telco, to the head office for an interview. So they spoke to me, and whatever little I know about marketing and sales plus finance, and my little experience in automotive soon after my engineering, I think helped. So I remember that interview. I am still in touch with one of the interviewers who took my interview. Yeah, he is still around and I am in touch.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But most people tend to, sort of stay in one particular part of any company. For example, if they're in sales, then they move up the case. So in your case, how is it that you had experience of so many diverse areas, which is sales and...
Yeah, okay. I should say that has come from when I moved to Toyota. So I spent almost 20 years in Toyota Kirloskar Motors in Bangalore. And in Toyota, almost every 3 or 4 years, you will be rotated to a new function. So that you could move from sales, marketing to finance, or you could go to planning, you could go to accessories. So they have that habit. So
Okay.
when you remain in the same company, you most of the time end up doing a fresh job. So you are feeling that you are into a new job, but the comfort of the place, the known people being around also offers. So I would say that that's a good practice to have to round off a career. So that was unique to Toyota.
So, what were the kind of things that you enjoyed doing? Did you like finance more than planning, or did you find something more interesting within the entire scope of things, or it was a job given to you and you executed it?
Yeah, sometimes like people say, you can choose your parents, so you can choose your boss. Once you have chosen a company, a boss is given. But most of the time, there is a discussion, and you are asked which area or which areas you want to work. Once you are put into that area, then it is your personal interest and your outlook, how your company can be expanded in that particular area. For my instance, I joined Toyota for a particular work. After 2 3 years, I was put into used car business. We Toyota did not have used car business at that time, though Maruti, Tata, etc. had used car business. So we had to start from scratch. So that was a huge learning. And what I enjoyed most was in my life in Toyota was creating something new, being innovative with your solutions to the market, and expanding your company's area of operation to an area in which they are not currently operating. So that is a
So, give me
clean
an
slate.
instance.
Sorry. Yeah.
So, in used cars, what is it that you had to start with? How did you go about sourcing and then figuring out how to make the market work? What are the kind of challenges you faced?
First of all, the biggest challenge at that time was used car was seen as not a preferred area for a professional to work in. Even in our
Okay.
dealerships, people were not very happy to be in used car because the so-called brand image of used car is bad.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that was one of the main challenges we had to attract people. But I have seen in other countries and in abroad especially, uh, sometimes they put their best people in used car business, because in used car you have to deal with a car, but to buy and sell the car you have to deal with two different individuals with absolutely opposite interest. The seller of the used car want to get the maximum value, and the buyer of the used car need to get the least value or the best value for his car. So the
Right.
challenge of uh, meeting the absolutely diversified or the divergent ends in a single asset. So it calls for a different set of skills, and there is no standards got developed over a period of time.
Right.
So I would say a used car business is much more challenging than a new car business. So
But
that
why
was
is
one of
it
them.
that all companies had the used car business? They felt that it was another revenue generation point, major.
Yes, it is genuine revenue generating point, definitely. Second, if you want to retain your customers, in India, the private car owners change their car anywhere between 3.5 to 4.5 years time. So if you don't give an exit option to the customer at your dealership, he might end up going to another dealership of another brand or a private used car dealer. So from there, where he will go, you are not sure about. So it's a tool to retain your customer. That is one. Of course, it can generate some revenue, and also it's an opportunity to attract customers from other brands. If you can give a good price, for Toyota, for example, a Honda customer may come to you to sell the car, and that gives you an opportunity to capture that customer. So it is revenue, customer retention, and also customer acquisition. So that is why car manufacturers would want to have a used car business with them.
Okay. There is this trend towards a whole lot of digital, what do you say, parts of the car now dominating in the design. What used to be mechanical is now moved almost completely into digital. Everything from the mileage to the various aspects of the car being managed. And some people have felt that companies now know a lot more about the car than the customers do, because earlier it was the mechanic who did it. But it's almost as if companies now have a much deeper understanding of the value of the car. So do you think that the customer is at a disadvantage now?
Not really, not really. The asset is finally owned by him. The cars become over a period of time, I would say, mobile phones on wheels. So everything is digital, and the digitalization is happening across the world in all industries. How many of us carry cash in our purse today? It's digitally paid. So this is a trend you cannot stop. So you can participate in that trend and make the best value out of it. So for a customer, I would say that he has opportunities to know his car with all this kind of analog devices being or digital devices being available in the car. Telematics gives much more information. The manufacturers or the OEMs would like to have it to ensure that the car runs very well. So this is the trend. So I would advise the customers to participate in that rather than seeing it as any kind of a threat or a disadvantage to him or her.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Toyota, I think, has been more into looking at hydrogen as an option to EVs or electrical. What was the thinking there?
I cannot say much on that. Toyota strongly believes that, in fact, Toyota is the first one to come with a hybrid vehicle, which is
Right.
actually a kind of electric vehicle with a IC engine still in place. The first
Right.
hybrid vehicles which came to the United States, etc., were from Toyota. Then, of course, then other parties came in with full BEV, with battery electric vehicles. Toyota has battery electric vehicles. Toyota has hybrid. And also Toyota believes that hydrogen is a viable option, but technology need to evolve further in that. Therefore, eventually, my personal feeling is that we will have IC engines to some extent. You will have plug-in hybrids. You will have pure hybrids. You will have BEs. You might have hydrogen also. So the customer, as per his choice, will choose the drivetrain or the engine or the powerhouse which drives his car. So hydrogen has its place. The technology is still not in place to make it economically viable for somebody to use. Toyota is equally working on that. At the same time, they're working on battery electric vehicles also. So
Okay. Before
it's an
we get
evolving story.
into, yeah, it's a complete change, like you said. Before we get into electric vehicles and the repurposing, I'd like you to give me an idea of the kind of career options that are available to young people today. And if they're getting into the business, should they look at IC, that is the conventional cars? Should they be, what are the challenges and what are the pluses? If they're looking at electrical, what are the differences? I assume that in sales, it might be harder to sell an electric vehicle today than it is to sell the IC cars. But what has your experience been?
Yes, it has its share of challenges and opportunities, as I said before. Pure internal combustion engine, 3-4 generations, we are all used to it. When we were a child, we have seen our parents or uncles or aunts or neighbors running a car which is purely a petrol or a diesel vehicle. After that, some CNG, LPG, all that came into being, but fundamentally internal combustion engines. So therefore, all of us are mentally and psychologically fit to that. So therefore, the differentiation is also pickup, speed, seconds to 100 kilometers, maintenance costs, etc., were the issues to be discussed with the customer to sell it. But when it comes to electric, our generation is the first time we are seeing the popularity of electric vehicles in the last 5 to 6 years, maybe in India. Therefore, people do have their fair share of apprehensions about it. The range, charging station, we see petrol pumps everywhere. We still don't see charging stations for electric vehicles as frequently as we see petrol pumps. So if I run out of cars, what will happen? And then the occasional fire hazards from batteries or electric vehicles comes in the newspaper pretty often. So that also puts some amount of scarce mindset into people. So these challenges are to be overcome if you have to go and sell an electric vehicle. But electric vehicle has definite advantage. Your running cost is much less. Your damage you may cause to the environment is much less. So therefore, it is a trade-off or a higher skill required to convince a customer today to buy an electric car or an electric vehicle compared to an IC engine. So, but OEMs are putting things in place. The government emphasis is also helping with incentives given to electric vehicle buyers in terms of GST, in terms of registration, etc., cost being less, etc. So there is a effort. So that government push gives additional confidence to people saying that, okay, I'm buying a car, but there are bigger entities in the system which is supporting us. So for a salesman, it is a bit of a challenge in that one-to-one discussions. He cannot answer all those questions which a customer may pose. He will have to depend on the bigger ecosystem to support him.
Okay. What about careers? That is where I started. Anybody
Yeah.
who's coming into automobiles today, where
Mm.
would you suggest they start and what should they think of?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Of course, if he is purely coming from a mechanical engineering stream, I would say that to sell electric vehicles, he should understand a little bit of electric engineering too. What is volt, what is ampere, what is kilowatt hour, what is power storage, etc., etc. So therefore, as we are moving forward today, as we see in many other industries, it is not just one stream or one discipline of knowledge which would make you successful. You need to have a cross-functional, cross-discipline knowledge, understanding to be adding value today. And in my limited experience, I have seen that when you can put interdisciplinary knowledge together, the sum of that is more than the individual parts. In India, if I give an example, the industry, the car industry, the IC car industry, took off with the coming of finance as an independent or a considerable tool to make the buying process easy for people. So that was the entry of the faculty or the discipline of finance into sales process to make the buying easier.
Okay.
So therefore, a salesman today, I would say he need to know mechanical nitty-gritties because the gearbox and the wheels and all that still remains. He need to know a little bit about electric. At the same time, he need to know how to arrange a finance for a customer if he is wanting to buy a car. And buying on finance, what benefits he can get in his tax benefit or in his tax planning for his company, etc. So interdisciplinary knowledge is something I would advise everybody who coming into automobile industry to be a salesman to know a little bit more.
What about working in the plants? How is an IC plant different from an EV plant? What are the kind of opportunities there?
In terms of plant, again, here is where the difference. Not many car manufacturers are making batteries today. There are specialist battery makers. But in case of IC engines, there are many OEMs, car manufacturers who make their own engines also. So the engine plant is almost coming to standstill. It is no more required if you are purely going into an EV industry. So there will be more of bought out items getting assembled in a EV plant than the earlier case. So the number of components in a car would come down by somewhere between 30 to 40% in case of an electric vehicle compared to an IC vehicle. So that is definitely going to happen. And there will be specialized motor makers specialized battery makers, the tire and other things were already being made. The sheet metal work may still remain with the manufacturers. Seats were have been always been a bought out item. So it is more of an assembly activity which is coming forward rather than pure manufacturing, especially for engines.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Let me
Yeah.
just make my regular announcements and come back to you.
Yes, sure.
You're watching the podcast episode with Dr. Tony Augustine. He's spoken of where he started, how he completed his mechanical engineering, and then first after a stint at Hindustan Motors, he got into Tata Motors. But it was Toyota which helped a lot of cross departmental expertise, where he moved between finance and sales and understanding various aspects of the entire company. He also spoke of setting up Toyota's first used car business. And I think that interesting observation of reconciling two completely extremes of interest: the buyer who wants to get the car at the best low price, and the seller who wants to maximize the profit so that he can invest it into another car. Uh, I've also talked to him about the kind of careers that people getting into automobiles today can expect to go through. And in this next segment, we will talk of starting salaries, the career tracks, and what are the various options that are opening up. Before I get into what this episode is all about, which is how EV batteries can be repurposed. So if you like what you've been hearing, share, like, comment on this, put in your doubts, because I'm sure Dr. Tony Augustine will be happy to answer some of the queries that you have. Back to the show. So, Dr. Augustine, what are the starting salaries in automobile companies at the entry level? Would be around 40 to 50,000. What is the kind of pay grades that are normally available?
Yes, if a company is recruiting fresh engineers from campus under their GET program, etc., yes, somewhere in the range of 40 to 70 is possible for
Okay.
many of the
Okay.
starting salaries. Yes.
Okay. And what is the career track? So let's say an engineer is recruited. What are the things they go through, let's say 2 years, 3 years, 5 years? What are the possibilities?
Possibility is first 6 months, usually a company will put him through the different training programs, getting acclimatized to the culture and other things of the organization. That is very important. And I would advise every fresher who is joining a reasonably big company to get into that training very well and get to know things, how things happen. You might have your ideas, but in an organization, you have to dovetail your ideas with the organizational culture. So that's very important. So the training program of 3 to 6 months, depending on the organization, it may vary. After that, they will put you into, if you are going into a sales function, you may be in charge of a small territory or a dealership, etc. So that may continue for around 1 year, 1.5 years. Then you will have to look after an area of yours, area and with a specific target on your own. So that is where your skills come to the fore. Your ability to negotiate and understand the customer needs, make the dealer behave, or do the direct sales to the customer, meet up with government officials and look for sales opportunities, participate in tender, and then you may get an order, and then finally the company may say that I need 1 more month to supply because it is not a planned sales which you are bringing in. So we need time, and that time the customer say no, I need the car immediately. So these are all conflicts which you have to manage, but then that will help you. Then maybe after 3 years you will get to look after a state, is my expectation, or that is what usually happens. And from there on, it is your output which will take you further. So there is nobody to handhold you further. That is where your ingenuity, your cross-functional knowledge, how you can network with other players in the system, etc., comes into play.
And typically, salaries would go from, like you said, 40 to 70. It can go to 3 and 4 lakhs and 5 lakhs per month? What are the
Yes,
kind of
yes,
options?
yes. In 3 years, it can go from 40, 50,000 to a lakh and 20. Yes, it's possible. It's
Okay,
possible.
okay.
Yeah,
So, like
yeah.
you said, it really depends on what the person is capable of achieving and how skilled they get at doing something and how valuable they turn out for the companies that they're working for.
Surely,
This
yes.
is one lesson where I think, people think that a high starting salary is important. But what I've seen consistently is that if you're a great learner and you're able to execute, you can invest. It's almost like investing, starting off slow, but then managing to expand it much faster as you grow. That I
Definitely.
hope is.
Yes, that is the case. I would advise anybody, if you have to choose between a higher salary and a desk job, and if you have to choose between a low salary and a moving job where you will go and meet different kind of people, different kind of customers, choose the second one, because that will put you in a better footing for your after 2 years, 3 years down the line than a higher salary at the desk.
Okay, great. So now let's move to what this episode is about, which is,
All right.
uh, if you can give us a brief of how you considered your entry, because from what we discussed, you told me that this was not one of your intended objectives. It's something that came to you. You got to meet
Yes.
up with someone. So if you could narrate what exactly happened and how did it come about?
All right. Yeah. Thank you. So, as I said, I was with Toyota from 2004-5. So that's a long stint I had. And as I was working in Toyota, we were also seeing the emergence of electric vehicles as a preferred option across the world. We have seen what's happening in the US market, even the European markets, and also some of the Indian companies and even foreign companies coming and selling electric vehicles, and which had definite advantage in terms of cost of operation, in terms of government emphasis for considering the pollution and balance of payment due to the import of fossil fuels to India. So we were seeing that electric vehicles is having traction. So I got interest, and from my personal interest, I thought I should study this a little bit more. And then I got a chance to work or study this area. I got enrolled for a doctoral program in electric vehicles, primarily to understand from a mindset point of view. Though a lot of work happening in the technical area of range, battery, capacity, etc. As I said before, for 3 4 generations we are conditioned to think in
Yeah,
terms of internal combustion engines. So this is a totally different drivetrain, electric vehicle, items we are seeing only for our home appliances. How people's mindset need to change to accept electric vehicles. So that was my area of interest, and I could pursue that and complete my doctoral program. And in that work, I came across different companies and entities working in this area. And in the study, we came to know that the resale price is one of the critical components a customer would consider when he buys a car. How much I can get when I go to sell it after 3 4 years.
right.
So we found that electric vehicle lacks in that faculty in a big way. And one of the primary reasons for that was a 3 4 year old vehicle, electric vehicle's battery is valued practically at zero, because nobody knows what it is after 3 4 years of usage. So therefore, I came across a company which is trying to repurpose that battery for other applications.
Okay.
So that is when, by doing that repurposing, finding a second use or utility for that battery after its life in the car or in the truck or any electric vehicle, will make that asset much more valuable. Only
Okay.
if it is valuable or only if it has a value or a utility, people will buy it at a price. Otherwise, it just goes as a waste, just to throw it away as a landfill. So that is the area after I moved out of Toyota, I got into, so that we can get a better price for that battery and help the original car user with his resale price. At the same time, this battery constitutes almost 30 to 40% of the initial car's price. If the car is, say, 20 lakhs, the battery comes to almost 7, 8 lakhs. So that asset has to have value after some time. And that is where we got into resale of this, repurposing of this
So
battery.
how do the economics work? I think you gave me some very interesting insights yesterday on how, when it's a completely new battery, once it gets down to about 80%, then it's hard
Yes,
to predict exactly how the battery will behave,
yes,
even
yes.
if it's a car that is just 1 or 2 years old. If you could expand a bit on that, and then we'll get into how do the economics work.
Okay. Now, the typical case of a lithium-ion battery, which is the most popular form of the battery today, lithium-ion battery, a battery would have a life. The life of a battery usually is described in terms of SOH, state of health or state of charge, interchangeably
Right.
used. Depends on how many cycles of charge and discharge the battery can undergo
Okay.
in its life. Now, typically a battery might have a charge and discharge life of, say, example, 5,000. In that 5,000, every charge and discharge brings down the health of the battery by a small amount. Some
Okay.
small amount of it is coming down. Because the battery is made up of natural materials like lithium, cobalt, or nickel, etc., etc. So they all degrade. They all degrade in a uniform way up to the SOH reaching maybe 85 to 80%. 85 to 80% means the battery would have undergone somewhere between 1,500 to 2,000 cycles of charge and discharge.
Okay.
Each cycle could give you around 250 to 300 kilometers of running. So just an outside case, if you take 2,000 charge discharge has happened, 300 is per charge kilometers you can run. That means the car has run almost 6 lakhs kilometers. For a private user, 6 lakhs kilometers may happen in 5 or 8 years time. So that is pretty good for him. So he is pretty safe with that. But when it comes to commercial applications of that vehicle, the 6 lakhs may happen in 3 years. Because per day, a car user, a taxi, etc., may run 400, 500, 600 kilometers. So that will reach in much faster. Now, after it reaches 80%, each cell in the battery will start behaving slightly differently.
Okay.
So that is a natural phenomenon you cannot stop. So after an 80% SOH, it is not advisable to continue with the same battery in the car. The range will come down, the charging capacity, the charge it can hold will come down, the discharge may happen much faster, and in an unfortunate case, the chances of a fire hazard is higher. So the battery is advised to be changed. Now, what happens within the battery? A battery might have, say, 100 cells. Out of that 100 cells, maybe 20% of the cells have gone bad. Which one, why, etc., is still a mystery. It is still under investigation. Nobody knows why that particular cell has gone bad. We cannot know. The minerals would have been mined from the same place, processed in the same factory, but still behave differently. Almost like human beings. 3 brothers born to the same parents, aided in the same house, but by the age of 20, they all behave differently. Same is the case with cells in a battery. So this is the critical challenge in a battery LFP management. So now, if 20% of the bad cells are bad, 80% of them are good, but the battery has to be removed. Now, what will you do with that battery? You should not be going for refill into the land. So we take such batteries, we identify which are these 20 cells which have gone bad, we remove them, we use these 80 cells which are reasonably good, we test them, validate them, and then make them into energy storage batteries. Stationary ESS, what we call ESS. The advantage with ESS is the power demand is much stable. Unlike in an automobile where it peaks, comes down, the fluctuations are very high. So in a ESS application, the power demand is stable, so the cells can behave better, and they are a wonderful way to bring in circularity to EV industry.
Okay, so how do the economics work? Now, let's say the person comes to you or you get to know of a battery which needs to be replaced. So, do you buy the battery from him at a good price, or do you give him a retrofitted battery which will last him for longer? So, let's say somebody with a commercial, how does it work?
Yeah, we are usually the battery has something called BMS, battery management system, right?
Okay,
Now, it is, if I give an example, as I said, batteries sometimes behave like human beings. I stretch that example a little bit more. Now,
okay,
you go to a doctor. I am 50 plus. So I go to a doctor and say that doctor checks my heart, everything. And he says, Tony, I'll ensure that you will live till 80. So what he will say, okay, I said, wonderful. Oh, I live till 80, wonderful. But Tony, you have to give me every week the vital statistics of your health. Your
okay,
blood pressure, your sugar level, your heartbeat, your whether you are exercising, what you are eating, etc., etc. Without that, I cannot guarantee that you will live till 80. If you give me this, I'll ensure that you live till 80. So in a similar way, if I get to know the battery's behavior or health or the operations from its day one of its operation, at the end of
okay,
3 or 4 years, I can buy that battery at a much higher price than I going at the age of 75 to the doctor and say that, doctor, I want to live for some more time. What can you do? He said, boy, you should have come to me a
okay.
bit more early.
That's a
Now I
nice
can buy.
example, but yeah. Yeah,
Similarly, if somebody comes and says that this is my battery, take it, I don't know the asset. I
okay,
cannot, I will buy it for some price, but that may not be the ideal price. But if knowing that I will have to change the battery after 3 or 4 years, I will exchange or share the data of the performance of the battery with the potential buyer from day one. The potential buyer will give you a much better price. So that is what our company today does. We interact with the vehicle manufacturers, OEMs, the lease company who owns the asset, and tell them that you will have to change the battery one day or other, and you would
yeah,
want to get a good price for that. So I will protect your data. This is only for me to understand how good the battery is behaving. I can advise you if there is particular thing which is going bad in the battery, saying that it need to undergo a refurbishment or a change or an overhaul, which will extend your initial life, and I can buy back at a better price. So that is what we tend to do.
okay. So now, how are you setting up this entire sales network
Hmm.
for repurposed electric vehicle batteries?
Hmm.
What exactly are you doing for them?
As I said, we if we get a old battery, there are around 20-25% of the cells which are to be replaced. We identify them, replace them. Then a typical car battery would be around 30 kilowatt hour. Just say, giving you an
Okay,
example. So 20% of the battery is gone. So 20% gone means that 30 has become a 24 kilowatt hour battery, right?
okay,
So that 24 kilowatt hour battery, I can make at least 20 kilowatt hour of good smaller batteries out of it.
oh, okay,
Yeah. So
okay,
I take out those cells, make them into smaller packs of say 5 kilowatt hour. It was
okay,
originally 30, 20% gone. Then there were some more work and other things will happen. I may get balance 20. This 20, I will make it into new battery of 5 kilowatt hour each. Then
okay,
I have to put a BMS on it to manage the connectivity and the interaction between the cells proper so that it continues to give a steady power output. That is a proprietary knowledge which we hold today.
okay, okay,
So with that, I will put up those battery for sales. We have what we call EPCs, and engineering, procurement, and commission agents, who are our kind of distributors. And all our household batteries which we have today, the UPS system we have in our house, are mostly lead acid batteries.
Right.
So many customers are replacing them with lithium ion repurposed batteries because they can hold much more power, doesn't need much of maintenance, practically no maintenance, and we are giving such batteries with minimum 5 years warranty.
Wonderful. Let me
So
come back to you. I'm
yes,
speaking to Dr. Tony Augustine. And in the previous segment, what we spoke about was what are the career opportunities that are currently available in automobile companies. And he suggested that if the option is between taking a lower job, which a lower paid job, which allows you to travel and meet a lot of people and understand the industry better, versus a high paying desk job, he says opt for the lower paid job all the time because that teaches you much more. And in the long run, it allows you to grow much faster. He also spoke of how cross functional expertise is very important. And if you've learned mechanical engineering, acquire knowledge of electrical aspects of automobile engineering as well, because that could be crucial in future. He started off with explaining how electronic EV battery repurposing happens, and he spoke of what exactly happens inside the cell and how the value of the entire battery drops over time, and how they manage to create completely new uses, which will actually, I think, eat into what are the existing lead acid batteries, which are being currently used for generators and UPSs and all of those. And here there is a definite way in which these batteries can be utilized. In the final segment, I will be speaking to him about what are the career opportunities available in EV batteries, what does he see happening, and how do they go about recruiting people for their business. So, Dr. Augustine,
yep.
what are the kind of people you look for? What are the kind of things that in your company, in Nunam, which is where you work, what are the kind of things that you look for?
We have work in two areas. One is selling our repurposed battery to a potential customer or a resort owner or a villa owner or any person. So that is a lot of education being given to that customer about the benefits of lithium ion repurposed battery, how he can be a partner in the whole ecosystem of repurposing and sustainability, etc. And also, we are looking at integrating it with solar and
Okay.
making every potential lithium ion battery user the producer and consumer of electricity. So that
Okay.
opportunity is in front of us with lithium ion battery. Today, a country like India has a lot of sunlight. We are a tropical country. Almost 360, 320 days, we get good sunlight. But our ability to capture that energy and store it and take it out when we need it most is something which is lacking.
Okay.
Government has been emphasizing on solar in a big way, but the battery storage has not come to the fore so far. So we would want people to sell this kind of a concept. And some of our customers who have taken our battery, we are very happy to say they are absolutely off the grid. They don't have to draw power from the grid at all. With solar and EV, electric vehicle repurposed battery, they can be off the grid. So that is one segment. Second, we have examples of our battery being used in remote areas where electricity has not come. They are being used under microgrid. So we have villages in Jharkhand which are running on solar and our batteries and giving electricity to many villages. So that is a lot of people with a mindset to go and work in such areas and explain to them, work with NGOs, etc. is another set of people we are looking for. And third example I just want to give is EV can power EV. In fact, recently we had a case in Bangalore airport where our repurposed batteries are getting charged by solar and those batteries are charging electric vehicles. So that is an industrial application. So we want guys who can go and talk to electric vehicle charging stations and talk to them, saying that you don't have to draw power from the grid. You can, the daytime, you can charge your batteries, keep it ready. Somebody coming back from office after work, you want to charge the battery at 7 o'clock. Give the clean energy to charge his battery. So there are variety of segments in which these batteries can find purpose, and you need different skill sets to convince such people. So that is one segment. The second area where we work is, as I said, BMS is an important component in the performance monitoring and performance enhancement of the battery. So we are really looking at people with electric vehicle and programming backgrounds. So that is another area which is important. And the third area is people with chemical knowledge, chemical industry, chemical engineering, or even basic chemistry is in demand today. So with EV batteries,
because you're trying to figure out how to enhance the sort of capacity or the utilitarian part of the batteries. What exactly are the chemical engineers involved with?
chemical engineers, because as I said, we are all finally lithium ion are natural materials, right? So it is the chemical industry which brought in batteries to the world. So we would ideally want chemical engineers, may not be at our level, but in the research area of EV batteries, electric vehicle batteries, there is huge demand for pure chemical graduates, chemical specialists, because this is actually what proportion of each items will give you the maximum output. To put it very simply. So that is a chemical work. No amount of course, other engineering knowledge is important, but then chemists have an area. Like I would go to the extent of saying that what chemists did to pharmaceutical industry, today chemists would have a chance to do
they have
in
the opportunity to do in the battery. Yeah.
Yes.
And what is fascinating from what you just said is that the repurposing is not going back into sort of making the existing batteries last for longer in cars, but to find completely new uses which are replacing everything from energy starved areas to places which require a gap to be filled, to actually moving off the grid, because it makes a lot of sense. If the earlier thing used to be that if you had solar power and then you had to connect it to a battery, and then storage was not, because typically you got sunlight, at which point you required less electricity. But in the nights when electricity usage is more, is when you require storage and it needs to be well used, which is where you have a very important function to fulfill. So where do you see the changes? So what is going to happen to batteries in cars? They will still need to make that investment of 6-7 lakhs. That doesn't change because they might get some more money. How does it work?
Yes. One thing good is the battery prices have been coming down drastically. Maybe 3 years back, it was $200 per kilowatt hour, which has come down to 100 or below 100 now.
Wow.
My personal expectation is that it would come down to around 60, 70 in a short period of time. So with this background only, our transport minister, Mr. Nitin Gadkari, has been saying that price parity of electric vehicles with IC engines will happen soon. So primarily his argument is the falling price of batteries. So that will happen. So if a customer has bought a car and the car had a battery and the battery cost him 5 lakhs today, maybe after 4 years when he goes to buy a battery for his car, that 5 lakhs would have come down to around 3.5 lakhs. Definitely. So the price will come down, or that has been the trend so far. So it will come down. It may not come to 1 lakh or something, but it could settle anywhere between 2.5 to 3.5 is my expectation. Now, if a customer at that time, the battery which he bought at 5 lakh, if he gets somewhere around maybe 75 to 1 lakh rupees, that is good for him. So his net outflow would come down to just about 2.5. Yes, he will have an investment, but in that 4-year period, his running cost would have been practically nil. For every kilometer runs, he pays almost 15 rupees. If the mileage is 10, petrol is at 100, fuel itself is 10 rupees. Plus his insurance, anyway, all that remains. So
Right.
battery 1 kilometer, you will run in less than 1 rupees. So he has huge saving accrued over a period of time. So
Right.
that plus the old battery price will ensure that he is better off buying a second battery at the end of
Okay.
3 or 4 years.
Okay. This is really interesting because, as you said, a 4-year window or a 6-year window actually allows for a lot of advancement in today's world.
Yes.
So, whatever the prices, so whether we've been seeing the price of semiconductors or we've been seeing the price of so many things that we normally consume, the prices just keep dropping. And there is definitely advancement in terms of the technology and how people are getting attuned to it. So, where do you see this going? Do you think that there will be some kind of equilibrium, or because I also have read about how ICE designers are ensuring that the combustion engine efficiency just keeps rising. So some of them have ensured that you get much better, mileage as compared. So is there I mean, this is a constant tug of war. So where do you see this stabilizing, or is that the way the market will proceed? There will always be ups and downs, and there'll be technologies which come in and go. How do you see this? You've been in the industry for 25, 30 years now. So how do you see this change?
Yes, IC engines have been improving its performance. The fuel energy available in the fuel tank till it reaches the wheels in an IC engine, it's just about 20%. If the fuel had say 100 units of power or energy, you get only 20-25 in the wheels. 75% is lost in terms of friction, heat, etc. in an IC engine. So whatever you may do, it may go up at the most to 28 or 30%. Beyond that, by the very definition of an internal combustion engine, beyond that is not possible.
Okay.
But that is not sustainable for today's environmental concerns which we are facing with. We need to have some energy transformation mechanism which delivers at least 80% from the pure source to the delivery point, which electric vehicles can provide. So therefore, I strongly believe that the way forward will be with electric vehicles playing a big role. There will be IC engines and applications definitely in place. Hydrogen, other things, hybrids, etc., will also be there. But the predominant force by which people move will move to EV. Others will also remain. Maybe, if I can make a wild guess, 50% on battery electric and balance 50 with all other combinations put together is what I would see for the next 15 to 20 years time. So this is
Okay.
the reality.
It's a very interesting take. And I was just wondering, now let's say the person who buys an EV, at the end of 4 years, he has to, get a new set of batteries. Nothing prevents him from repurposing that battery to run in his own house.
No,
And
he
then,
can.
ensure that your electricity bills will crash like crazy if you're able to
One,
just charge it. Is there a way that I can decide that how much I will draw from the grid? Because every time the battery is full, it runs on battery and only goes to the grid for charging. In which case, our costs will come down dramatically. Is that possible?
yes, it's possible. If you are charging your battery from the grid itself, then you will have a backup. That's all will happen because you have drawn power from the grid. So ideally, we
Okay.
want you to club the battery with solar panels, which you
Okay.
can install in your house or in your premises or wherever you are. So once you put the solar plus battery, you are better off. You are off the grid. So that is what we want to say. The so-called stellar energy which we are being talked about. it says that wind, solar, and battery will bring down the energy, and we will all be provided with clean energy over a period of time.
Okay. Do you
So
see the storage expanding? Do you see this being used for industrial applications over time? Or do you
yes,
think that it'll remain with, yeah, what
yeah,
is your
yeah.
prediction?
There is a lot of effort by the government, and even I remember sometime back, some 3 4 months back, Karnataka Power Transmission Corporation called for battery storage to meet or manage peak hour demand, because KPTCL has also set up solar farms across Karnataka, and they want to charge the daytime solar energy into batteries and offload them into the grid for the peak hour management. So such efforts are happening in India, and it's happening across the world. So battery storage for to supply into the grid from solar or wind is happening in a big way across the world.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. So I think you've provided a lot of food for thought for people who are coming into the business or looking at EVs as a possible career option. So what would you like to say in conclusion? Is there something that you would want to tell people who are getting in, or what is your message?
Yeah. For the students or people who are just getting into the industry as an employee, I would advise 2 3 things. One, salary need not be the first concern for you. Your first concern should be the ability to know and learn, be curious. That is very, very important. And second, I would say be with your customer, know your customer, be with the customer, understand him more. That will take you much further in your career than anything else. And third is you will not never know 100% of everything. If you are 80% certain about what you are doing, jump into it and do it.
Wonderful.
Jump into and do it, because doing itself will take care of a lot of other things, so you will be better off.
Wonderful, Dr. Tony Augustine. Such a
Yeah.
pleasure to have you on the show. I just request you to hang on for 2 minutes. I'll finish the closing remarks and come back to you. I
Yes,
just,
yes, yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
thank you very much. I've been speaking to Dr. Tony Augustine, who gave us a wonderful overview of what the future of uh, the EV market is like, and how batteries used in cars will be repurposed for so many applications, and how they will be used for much longer. So the existing battery, which is just 6 or 8 years, can be repurposed twice or thrice to provide uh, electricity for a much longer time, which decreases the environmental footprint. So next week we'll be back with another guest and another career. Until then, keep watching, share, like, and tell people about the show when you get to see them. Thank you very much.